This is my controller collection. So far, I have over 60 of them, ranging from cheap knockoffs all the way to name brands like my DualSense Edge and the Scuf Instinct. So when I was scrolling on Amazon and saw this thing as the #1 best-selling controller, I was intrigued. 3 days later, it shows up at my front door. So let's check out the Gamesir G7 Pro, the best-selling controller on Amazon. So first things first, let's get this thing unboxed. So pretty basic packaging. I mean, this is one of the cheaper Pro controllers, so it makes sense that it's not crazy. And the reveal. Pop off the thumbstick protectors, and this thing looks clean. I really like the all white and gray color style on it. It definitely has a little bit of weight to it, but I don't hate the feel right off the bat. After looking everything over, this is actually pretty impressive. It is an Xbox controller, so it's an Xbox style layout with the asymmetrical sticks. However, the shape of it almost reminds me more of a Switch controller with how long the legs are and fat and wide the body is. These thumbsticks are TMR, which is telemagneto resistance, and essentially what that means is they use magnets to avoid stick drift, but the magnets are small enough that the movements are still very precise. It's a newer technology being put in a lot of the new Pro controllers, which is good. It makes the controllers last way longer, but typically the sticks still feel very precise. So it's rocking a white shell, gray thumbsticks, gray buttons, gray bumpers, triggers, and a gray rubber textured grip. This grip runs all the way down from the front of the controller around the side and to the back legs of this controller, which that is my favorite type of grip, because when your palms sweat like right here when you're gripping the controller, a lot of controllers don't have this front grip. One of the biggest downfalls on this controller is there's no interchangeable thumbsticks. So if you want your thumbsticks to be different shapes or different heights, you have to get something like a Scuf Topper or a Control Freak, which is just extra money. These are tactile clicky face buttons, so all 4 of these along with the D-pad has this really tactile clicky feedback, and this front shell is magnetic, so this pops off and you can, I guess, customize your faceplate if you wanted to. There's also 3 included styles of your D-pad that you can switch out. The thumbsticks also easily pop off, which makes it insane that they don't include extras of these. Like, it literally would have costed them 50 extra cents to give us a couple more plastic pieces for our thumbs that are taller, domed, concave. Like, that's such a key part of a Pro controller, and they made all of this and didn't include those. It makes no sense. However, this does reveal that anti-drift TMR thumbstick module. Moving to the top of the controller, now we have the bumpers and the triggers, which these triggers are actually adjustable, so you can have the full normal press, or with the flip of these switches, you can have a pretty proper digital tap mouse click press. The bumpers still have a tactile feedback to them, but they're not nearly as clicky as everything else. And there's also 2 additional claw grip bumpers at the top as well. So these are basically paddles for claw grip players where you can click them with your middle finger all while you're doing all these actions as well. There's a piece at the top of the controller that's meant to keep your charging cord in place. However, this is also removable. The back has 2 large reprogrammable back paddles, and those rest in a pretty natural spot, just right where your middle fingers would lay on the back. The bottom has your headphone jack, a mute button, and an M menu button. And a pretty unique thing you get is a full controller stand and wireless charger, which I think might be the coolest accessory I've ever seen come with a Pro controller. All of this for $80 is a really good deal on paper, but is this actually even a good controller? Well, let's find out. And if you're building a new PC or you're thinking about upgrading to a new generation GPU for your PC, be sure to check out Gigabyte's GeForce RTX 5060 WindForce graphics card. It's powered by Gigabyte's WindForce cooling system, and it has a pretty unique Hawk fan design to provide awesome cooling performance. NVIDIA's GeForce RTX 5060 GPU pushes 100+ FPS in your favorite games, and all GeForce RTX 5060 GPUs are powered by the game-changing NVIDIA Blackwell architecture and enhanced by revolutionary DLSS 4 technology. So to pick one up yourself or learn more about them, I'll have the link for you in the description. Okay, I just got both my back paddles and my 2 claw bumpers mapped. Now let's go ahead and get our first initial feel, and right off the bat, I can tell I need a taller right stick. I've played for years with a taller right stick, and it just feels so awkward not using one. One thing I'm noticing with the feel is I'm having to actually like curve my 2 index fingers a lot more to not accidentally click the claw bumpers. Naturally, I'd hold the controller more like this, but this makes me way more susceptible to accidentally clicking these bumpers. So just naturally, I'm flaring out my index fingers way more, which is not that comfortable. Oh my, okay, hold on. Right now, this is just feeling so inconsistent to me. Like, the sticks don't feel bad, but they kind of feel a little bit stiff. I'm used to playing on 4 paddles and not these claw paddles, so like this is really awkward to me as well. Oh, okay. I'd say out of everything right now, the triggers probably feel the most consistently good. Like, these triggers feel like proper mouse click triggers, but I still just can't tell. There's just something that feels off about the feel of this. I think part of it is because the paddles don't feel as like clicky and tactile as I feel like they should. It has more of like a dull press, but even that's like not really messing me up. I'm still editing fine. I think I would much rather have 4 back paddles compared to 2 back paddles and 2 claw bumpers. So far, the claw bumpers really just feel like they're in the way to me. However, I do like that there's at least 4 extra buttons on the controller, because if there was only 2 paddles or only 2 claw bumpers, this would be so much worse. And now Gamesir also has a PC software for the controller where you can go in and customize a bunch of stuff. So it looks like by default, I've been playing on 500 hertz, so we want to change that up to 1000 hertz. Looks like the default dead zones is 10, but I can adjust that all the way down to 0 if I wanted to. You can set trigger dead zones as well as hair trigger mode. I mapped all my buttons just using the menu button on the controller, but it looks like you can actually come in here in this software and set everything up as well. Oh, one thing I'm very curious to see, can I set these as mouse and keyboard binds? You can. So now that I've technically upgraded my controller to 1000 hertz polling rate, the difference is not really noticeable. I mean, the difference between 500 hertz and 1000 hertz isn't that drastic, but this is the big thing now. Can I pick all this loot up by just holding this down? No, you can't. It's not a proper scroll wheel, bro. You have to spam it. That's not nearly as good. I mean, it's still cool to be able to loot like this, but scroll wheel is so much better. Like, if you could just find a way to macro the scroll wheel. My favorite Pro Xbox controller of all time is actually this one. It's called the Scuf Valor Wireless, and it's the controller I've absolutely fell in love with. Like, prior to using this Xbox controller, I never even liked using Xbox controllers, but now I use this almost as my main controller. So for reference, this is kind of my baseline. This is what I'm comparing the Gamesir G7 Pro to. And one of the big differences is this controller feels like it has a much fuller feeling in your hand. Like I said, the Gamesir G7 Pro feels more like a Switch controller with its build, whereas this is more the fatter traditional Xbox style. This controller also has really tight mouse click triggers. It has mouse click bumpers as well. This controller also has the same TMR anti-drift thumbsticks, but it actually has interchangeable thumbsticks as well, and they give you a few options. However, the biggest difference in why I like this controller so much is the back paddle layout. On the back of this controller is 4 back paddles that look like they're in kind of a weird layout, but when you actually get it in your hand, it feels so good to click all 4 paddles. All you need is your middle fingers, and you can click the inner paddles with the side of your middle fingers, and then the outer paddles with the center of your middle fingers. So even though it's just 1 finger between 2 paddles, because of the way they're positioned, you can spam it super fast. I'm now a couple hours into testing this control. I've just been playing with it, trying to feel it out. I see why it's one of the most popular controllers. For only $80, it has a ton of features. However, it's now time to rank my top 3 Pro Xbox controllers. At number 3 is the Scuf Instinct. This thing is just too expensive. It has some pretty good features, but what makes a Pro controller my favorite is the feel of it, and the feel of this is just a little bit off. The Gamesir G7 Pro ranks as my second new favorite Pro Xbox controller. At $80, it's very affordable, and you get a ton of features for the price. However, again, the feel test is just slightly off. It just doesn't feel that good in my hands. If I was forced to play on this, I could still make it work. I could be good on this. But my number 1 Pro Xbox controller is the Scuf Valor Wireless. And I'm specifically talking about the model with the TMR thumbsticks because that really makes this controller. Which this controller also has software, also has 1000 hertz polling rate. It has basically all the same exact or more features than the Gamesir G7 Pro. However, it's about $90 more expensive. Personally, if I had the budget, this is the Pro Xbox controller I'm buying. The feel of it is just so much fuller. It feels so much faster. You just feel a lot better on this compared to the Gamesir G7 Pro, at least for me. However, this definitely exceeded my expectations, and I'll have the link to both of my top 2 favorite Pro Xbox controllers down in the description in the pinned comment if you want to check either of those out. Now click here if you want to watch my full review of my favorite Pro Xbox controller ever, or click here to watch a video YouTube thinks you'll like. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and thank you so much for watching.